Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. Ever growing, ever changing, ever learning person that I am today. And as you know, if you watched my video yesterday, I am currently in San Diego, California. I don't know when I'm going to post this, so we get there early. So I think we get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning or something. So I thought I would pre-film this video and go through some meditations. Yesterday I did a daily book of positive quotations, and I did Nightlight by Amy Dean. I loved the meditation on this last night, or 5 minutes ago, because I just filmed it. So let's go to the daily book of positive quotations for September 26th and see what it says. Yesterday was about knowledge versus wisdom. September 26th, depending on ourselves. Faced with crisis, the man of character falls back on himself. He imposes his own stamp of action, takes responsibility for it, makes it his own. Charles de Gaulle. Ultimately, we're responsible for what we choose to do or not. I'm just like laughing because I ended that quote on makes it his own. So let's start over, okay? Depending on ourselves, faced with crisis, the man of character falls back on himself. He imposes his own stamp of action, takes responsibility for it, makes it his own. Charles de Gaulle. Ultimately, we're responsible for what we choose to do or not do. If we're lucky, we have great support from friends and family, but at some point we have to make decisions and take responsibility for them. Right or wrong, it's up to us. We take a deep breath, consider the advice we've been given, draw on our experience, and do what we think is best. If things work out, we are relieved. If they don't, we accept responsibility and move on. I get lots of advice and support, but I recognize that in the end, it's up to me to make the major decisions in my life. So, this went from funny reading the quote to getting real serious real quick, because this was a really serious teaching moment that I had from my father many, many years ago. And my father and I had kind of got into an argument about something that I didn't know about the world, and that he had never informed me of. And I felt like it was his responsibility to inform me about this, you know? And so I said to him, I said, I just don't understand why you didn't tell me this, Dad. Like, I didn't know I was supposed to do this, and blah, 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 whatever, right? And he said to me, he goes, you know, well, I'm sorry that I misguided you into thinking that I was going to teach you everything about the world. And my dad is actually somebody that I go to all the time for advice, you know? And he said to me, and he said, but like, you know, I totally forgot. Like, I don't know why. I didn't think about telling you this, whatever. And it was about being a homeowner. And I said to him, I said, Dad, I said, you know, I don't expect you to tell me everything, but like, I don't know how to find these things out. And he said, you know, Pete, he calls me Pete. He said, you know, Pete, he said, so my dad grew up very different from his family. You know, he was the first one to go to college. He first one to leave the city, all that kind of stuff, other than my grandfather, who was in World War II. And he said, you know, I had to figure all of this out for my own. And I said, well, how did you figure it out, Dad? And he goes, you just take risks sometimes, you know? He goes, sometimes you're gonna come out successful, sometimes you're not. But you gotta just make a choice in some situations. Sometimes you have to just say, okay, I screwed up, now what can I learn from this? In the future, it won't happen again, and what can I do and with this, and what can I do with that, you know? And he goes, but you're not perfect. You're never gonna be perfect, and you're gonna continue to learn things over time. And this is where the discussion, and I've talked about this on here before, came from, where he said to me, I wish I could show you my life, all the successes I've had and all the failures I've had, and you could learn from that, and you could mold your life around that, and you could have the most amazing life in the entire world. But he said, I know that you have to learn these things on your own, you know? He said, I know that you have to go through your own life and make your own choices and learn these things. And I think that that's so true, you know? I think that at some point in life, no matter what it is, you know, whether it's relationship advice or work advice, or school advice, or like what degree should I pursue, or whatever, at some point you kind of have to just go with your gut and your heart, and you have to make your own choices about things, right? Some things today I consult the people that are closest to me in my life about: my husband, my sponsor, my best friend, those three. But then I kind of sit on it, you know, if it's something serious, a serious decision that I'm making in my life, and I kind of sit on it for a couple days, even like taking into consideration what they've said, and then I make the decision that I think is best for me, because I'm ultimately the one that has to live with that decision, you know? So I think it's important for us to do that, and to, as we move forward in the world, you know, make decisions and realize that we have choices in everything that we do. We have a choice to turn left, a choice to turn right, a choice to do this, a choice to do that, you know? So yeah, a choice to rent an apartment or buy a house, and that was, you know, really the situation at the time that we were talking about. And so anyway, you know, it's interesting. Life is this interesting thing. When you become open to the lesson, you're able to kind of laugh at the times that, you know, you didn't learn the lesson. So, okay, that's a great meditation. Let's go into, what's another one I should read? Should I read another Amy Dean one and see how that goes? Let's try it. September 26th. These are sometimes really hit or miss. Now, I love this book. I hadn't read it in a long time until I picked it up like a couple weeks ago, but I really love it. But sometimes it can be a little too recovery based if you're not in recovery, and a little religious. And I know that some people, that's kind of, I said this yesterday in my book, or my meditation. I know sometimes it's a turnoff for people. I just kind of take what I like and leave the rest and read through it. So, September 26th. I will not meddle with that which I cannot mend. Thomas Fuller. Sometimes we can affect change. Speaking up about something, suggesting an improvement, or learning a new skill can bring about a longed for change. But we have to change ourselves first, not anyone, anywhere, or anything else. We can take a moment now to think of those people or things we tried to change today. Then we can resolve not to keep trying to cause change or keep wishing things could change. If a button falls off our shirt, we can pick up a needle and thread and sew it back on. But if we see someone on the street without a button, we can't change that situation. I guess you could give them a button, couldn't you? By looking to ourselves and mending our own fences, we won't so likely try to mend the fences of others. Tonight, I can think of people, places, and things I cannot change. Then I can resolve to leave them alone and work on me. Have you ever put yourself in the middle of a situation that you've tried to help between two friends, and you end up becoming the one that looks like the ass in the end? That has happened to me more than once in my life, okay? Many, many times, from being my younger years all the way to today, you know? That I sit there and I see something going on and I think, you know, I just want to make this right between two people, and I love them and I love them, and why can't they just get along? And I put myself right in the middle of it, and boom, they're both angry at me, and they usually reconcile. You know what I mean? Has that ever happened to you? Sometimes I think you have to know it's not my place to get in the middle of this. You know, sometimes I think you have to know that this is somebody else's lesson to learn. That was really, really hard for me. That has been a lesson I have learned in recovery years and years and years ago, you know, that thankfully people did not stand in front of me learning the lesson. So it's important that you don't stand in front of somebody else learning their lesson. And I think that's a really valuable lesson to all of us that we miss sometimes, you know? When we make excuses for other people, or when we take away the lesson for them, they don't learn the lesson that they're supposed to learn, you know? I don't know. It's like, I remember years ago, you know, I'm pretty, if you've watched my videos, you know I'm pretty strict about the idea of we don't, as people in recovery, date for the first year that we're sober. It's a suggestion, you know? And the suggestion is based around, in your first year, you gotta focus on yourself. That's a year for you to focus just on yourself. And the other thing is, you don't really have anything to give somebody in your first year. You're really not that healthy yourself. You're working on yourself. What do you have to give somebody in a relationship in your first year? So that's out of selfishness that you're getting in a relationship, right? I did that. I got into 2 relationships in my first year, and I was, after that, told maybe I could do it somebody else's way. And I was willing to listen to some suggestions at that point. But I was talking to a friend not too long ago, you know, and she was telling me about, like, you know, when she works with other women, and, you know, she used to suggest to them not to get in relationships in their first year of sobriety, and she still does. She'll say, you know, like, it's probably not a great idea, you know, to get in relationships in your first year of recovery. And we were talking about sponsorship, and I said, well, do you sponsor them if they continue to, like, stay in relationships? And she said, oh, sure, yeah. She was like, you know, maybe that's the lesson they're supposed to learn. Maybe they're supposed to go through it. And it brought me back to my first year, and I thought, you know, like, I was really supposed to have those relationships. Like, those were 2 relationships to this day that I still remember. You know, the first relationship that I had immediately out of treatment was with a super cool guy that really had it all together, and he saw something, and still is a really neat guy, and he saw something in me that I just couldn't see in myself, you know? And he wasn't somebody that collected broken things, so that wasn't it, you know? He saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself, and he gave that to me. And that was something that really helped me build my confidence and helped me become a better person in dating him. And, you know, I can remember just sitting there and the way that he would look at me, and, you know, he just was so charmed by me, and we would just talk for hours and stuff. And then the next person I dated after that, I found out a couple years ago he passed away. I did a whole video about him at one point, and I also have talked a lot about him on my vlog. And I found out like 2 years after he had passed that he had passed, and really hit me hard. But he taught me freedom of my soul and how to be, you know, how to dance to the rhythm of my own music. And he taught me how to be kind and compassionate, and to do what makes you happy, and to, you know, be colorful and loud, and listen to the music that you want to listen to, and have the ideas that you want to have, and don't let anybody take away your opinion from you. And he was such a neat, artistic guy. He wrote a song for me called St. Peter, I'm No Saint, but it was in reference, you know, to St. Peter. And I think about those two relationships that I went through, you know, and that, like, I was supposed to go through those relationships, you know, that was supposed to happen. And I don't believe that everything in this world has meaning to it. I don't believe that everything that happens in this world is supposed to happen. I do believe that we can make sense out of things that don't, and we can apply lessons, even if there's no lesson there. Maybe I shouldn't have done that my first year. You know, maybe I should have done everything I was told and not been resistant, and, you know, not kept those relationships a little secret from my sponsor. They were two good-looking guys, too. But, you know, I learned a lot from that. I wouldn't be who I was today if I didn't. I also, the most valuable lesson I learned is that I have to always put my sobriety above all other relationships in my life. All. Because if I don't, you know, other than my relationship with my higher power, if I don't, then I'm going to lose those relationships. Because if I'm drinking or if I'm drugging, I'm not capable of having a relationship anyway. And I hurt people in my life when I'm doing that. And I'm not there for them. And I'm back rooted in selfishness and self-centeredness. So, you know, that's probably the most valuable lesson I learned from that, is that I always have to put my sobriety, you know, front and center. So that was a great meditation, wasn't it? And yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying your day. That was all over. That was funny and storytelling and crying almost and everything. So if you ever want to hear the whole story about my ex and what happened with him, I've made a couple of videos about it and talked about it on my vlog, but I'm willing to dedicate a whole video to him. I think he deserves that. And so anyway, I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.